Hello and welcome to Board Games with Barry. I'm Barry, and today is the release of Dominion Rising Sun, at least digitally. May have got it a couple of days early in the physical copy, otherwise it'll be out next week. So I know I've not been doing the Daily Dominion. I will show you that I did manage to get a first time win against Hard AI maybe at the end of this, but I thought it'd be worth going over the new cards so we know what they are and what they do. So this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th expansion. That seems like quite a lot. And let's not forget all the promos. It's probably another set on its own. And I believe like everybody thought we were going to stop round about Empire's time, maybe a bit before then, but Donald X Vaccarino keeps going. So we are here with a new set that introduces a couple of new mechanisms, and a couple of mechanisms I've not seen in any other deck builder as well, so it's good that there's still innovative things to be done in deck building. Yeah, it's maybe not necessarily pushing the boundaries or changing the landscape in the way that some of the other games have tried, but this is definitely something I've not seen some other deck builders try, and it reintroduces or builds upon the debt mechanism from, I think, Empires, which was quite well received and people quite liked. So let's just go through the cards in orders. We'll go into the prophecies, which are new in this set, and the events, which came in adventures, to see kind of what they are. So the first card is Fishmonger, and Fishmonger has a different back, and the reason for this is a shadow card. Now, shadow cards are one of the new mechanisms of the set. Shadow cards, when you shuffle your discard pile, don't shuffle the shadow cards. Shadow cards go to the bottom of the deck. Now, if anything puts a card to the bottom of your deck, they go under the shadow cards, and eventually you will draw the shadow cards. However, you're always supposed to know where the shadow cards are, and recommended that you turn the cards 90 degrees so you're able to see them at the bottom. Now, the shadow mechanism allows you to play any shadow card as if it were in your hand. So this is a very strong on-demand card, so we'll have to weigh up how good they are versus having semi-permanent access to it every time you shuffle. So Fishmonger for 2 gives you +1 buy, +1 money. That's pretty decent, but the biggest bonus of this Fishmonger is having that +1 buy on demand. So as long as you've got a spare action and you've got the money for whatever you're trying to do, having an extra buy on demand is really strong. Don't use it on the turns you've got no money. You're not going to draw it by accident. So pretty good there. And then let's just look at the deck again. When shuffling this, put it on the bottom of your deck. So it is a card in your deck. It's not like a separate shadow area. Cards that go into the bottom of your deck will still go to the bottom of your deck, and you will eventually draw all your shadow cards. It's just that every time you reshuffle your discard pile, they start on the bottom. And you always know where they are because you can always play them as if they were in your hand. They don't count as being in your hand for the purposes of discarding them, or anything else that looks at your hand, but just if you wanted to play an action, you may play it as if it were in your hand. So that's Fishmonger. Then Snake Witch, +1 card, +1 action, so mini village effect. If your hand has no duplicate cards, you may reveal it and return this to its pile to have each other player gain a curse. So there are a few things in this set that looks for a variety of cards, and I think that's quite a good way, or a stronger way to develop the game. You know, when you get to an engine and there's only 3 cards you want to buy in a kingdom, the other 7 cards just sit there. What are they? Chopped liver? So for encouraging people to get a variety of cards is also quite good. And this will be stronger in kingdoms that use prosperity, just by virtue of having that extra platinum, the colonies, and it'll also be stronger in things that have unique cards, whether it's the knights or something else. So this is okay. If you see it, it's not too bad. And it is also an attack card. So giving out curses for cheap can be strong, particularly if a kingdom has no trashing. Aristocrat. Aristocrats is a different thing entirely. Aristocrats care about the number of aristocrats. So that is the opposite for the Snake Witch, cares just about this one card. But again, that's another way of kind of doing it. If everybody cares about the aristocrats card and everybody's trying to buy the aristocrats card, then that's another way of sort of directing how people can and should play the game. If they're both in a kingdom, maybe one person goes in on the aristocrats, one person goes in on variety. See how it goes. Because there is a limit to how many you want in play at a time. So if you have 1 or 5, you get +3 actions. Pretty good. So a 3 for +3 actions seems decent. Now, but these are mutually exclusive. So 2 or 6 gives you +3 cards. 3 or 7 gives you +3 money, and 4 or 8 gives you +3 buys. But the first card you play, 3 actions. Great. The second aristocrat you play, 3 cards, and you've still got 2 actions. The third card you play, +$3, as good as a gold, and then if you are up to 4, then you may or may not be able to use those extra buys, but at least the option's there. So seems decent as well. Now, Craftsman costs 3 as an action and gain a card costing up to 5. So a little bit of ramp. And this could be relevant because when you play it, you also gain 2 debt. Now, debt, if you've not seen the mechanism from Empires, some cards you can purchase with debt, and basically just money you have to pay off before you can buy anything else. So when you play this and you get 2 debt, you have to spend, before you buy any other cards or do anything else with money, you must pay off your debt. So this isn't too bad. A 3 for a 5. So spending 3 to get a recurring 5, but you got to make up that difference in money, but you don't have to do it on that same turn. So this is okay. And arguably could be quite good depending on what you end up with your build in your deck. Riverboat, or first duration. So duration came out in maybe, I don't know, Seaside? Yeah, it was Seaside. Duration cards stay in play for a set duration, whether that's just until next turn by default, or some cards stay out indefinitely. But at the start of your next turn, play the set aside card, leaving it there, and it has the setup instruction of set aside an unused non-duration action card costing 5. So this is separate from the 10 in the kingdom. It can be any other card in your collection that costs 5. There's a non-duration action card. And so paying a 3 for a 5 could be pretty strong. And the duration element of it isn't so bad. You're offsetting it a turn for the 5 cost action and putting the Riverboat back into your discard pile to shuffle it through. So super streamlined decks, maybe not in this one, but otherwise, depending on what that action is, pretty good. So some games, I would suggest that during setup, if you get a card that's not particularly relevant, maybe consider changing it, right? Because you don't want this card to be a dead card as well. But it gives you access to that higher value earlier on. Root Cellar, storing all your root vegetables there by the looks of things. $3, great. +3 cards, oh, pretty good. +1 action for $3. This is excellent. However, you gain 3 debt. So you're, if you can get enough money coming in, maybe that's not a problem. Again, if you can streamline your deck so you're playing this to draw into your money cards, particularly again if you're playing Prosperity and you've got Platinums or some good loot or something. But you have to be aware of what is there. Or have to be aware of taking the debt, and you have to pay that debt off before you get another buy. Ali, so Ali's another Shadow Cat. You can see Shadow Cat. Again, I'm mixing up everything. Aristocats, Shadow Cats, who knows what kind of cats I'll mention next. Another Shadow Card. Again, Shadow Cards go to the bottom of your deck during a shuffle and are always available to play, but they do not count as being in your hand. So +1 card, +1 action, and discard a card. So this is reasonable, right? This is relatively decently balanced. Like if you could play this without the discard a card effect anytime, you're giving yourself possibly a mini village like every turn. to cycle through your deck and find the cards that you want. But because you got to discard a card, at least there is a downside. Sure, you can get rid of an estate, you can maybe get rid of a copper, but you've got to be sure that the card you're drawing is going to be better than the one you're getting rid of. Changes. So if you have any debt, you get +3 money. So already this is a good way of handling debt. But otherwise, trash a card from your hand and gain a card costing more money than it, but then you gain debt equal to the difference. So this lets you go into any card you want, really. You can go from a copper to a colony if you really wanted. And on the last turn, pretty strong. If you're never going to pay that debt off. So that's one of the considerations with debt. Like the last turn, when you're never going to pay that debt off, can you abuse the cards in any way? And change seems like a card that you can abuse that final turn. If you somehow pick up a couple of actions, let's say you aristocrat into change, get rid of a copper, take a colony, into change, get rid of a copper, take a colony, or something along those lines would be the dream final hand. So can be abused, but you got to look for the situations where it is possible. Ninja, another shadow card, +1 card, and each other player discards down to 3. So militia with +1 card instead of money, and you've got access to it on tap with the shadow ability. Yeah, pretty decent. Like militia is not the best attack card in the world, but it's not the worst, and this can be quite disruptive, so decent for 4. I'll tell you what, actually, I've already flicked through it. Poet. So this is a new symbol and a new type of card there, the Omen card. Now, this symbol deals with prophecies, which we'll come on to, and this means unintuitively remove 1 sun from a prophecy. There'll only ever really be 1 prophecy in play at a time, but remove 1 sun from the prophecy that's in play. Now I know it says +1, but the way the rulebook's written, it suggests that you start with the number of suns equal to the correct player count on the prophecy and remove them. I think you could probably get away with adding them until it reaches the threshold. And I think some other people are going to play it that same way. But apart from that, it's a little village, 1 card, 1 action, and reveal the top card of your deck. If it costs 3 or less, put it into your hand. So potentially +2 cards, +1 action. So it depends on the prophecy, right? It's a little more expensive than the village, but it does give you 2 cards instead of 2 actions. Yeah, might depends on the prophecy, and obviously you're only really going to have these when you have a prophecy in play. River Shrine. So again, remove 1 of the suns on the prophecy. Trash up to 2 cards from your hand. At the start of cleanup, if you didn't gain any cards in your buy phase this turn, gain a card costing up to 4. So this isn't bad early on. Trash 2 coppers. You can't afford anything anymore, but you get to buy a 4 cost card. Decent if you got that 4/3 opening. And then when you come into your second or first time through the deck, can see. So again, it probably depends on the prophecy whether or not this is super worth it. But trashing 2 is also quite strong, and you can even trash itself if you got a couple of them and it no longer serves much of a purpose. Because once the prophecy is clear, this does nothing. But also good for getting rid of curses. Yeah, I can see this getting some use in some kingdoms. Excuse me. This is some, to my mind, less appealing art. I very much like a Dominion 3rd edition where they redo the whole frame and all the art to be a consistent style throughout. Anyway, another Omen card, so removes a sun from a prophecy, +1 card, +2 actions. Why, that's just a village with more steps. But you may discard 2 cards for 1 card, so that's also quite good. Get rid of 2 estates, or if you know something juicy's coming up, you can get rid of 2 coppers for a gold or something along those lines. Again, the strength of these very much depends on the prophecies. Gold Mine, our first 5 cost card. +1 card, +1 action, +1 buy. Classic. Love it. You may gain a gold and get 4 debt. So gold would normally cost you 6. This seems like a good deal. But obviously you've got to pay it back. But if you're going to buy a gold anyway, 2 copper discount. A Kitsune, or Kitsune. Remove 1 from Prophecy, so again, probably depending on how good the Prophecy is. Choose 2 different options, +2 bucks, +2 actions. Each other player gains a curse or gain a silver. So by the time you're up to the 5s, you're probably not so fussed for gaining silvers. Each other player gaining a curse isn't bad, depending on what else is going on. Early on, that's probably quite good. And then the +2 actions, +2 money is just reasonable late game. So probably worth having at some points. The Litter. Again, not a big fan of whoever the style is. But $5, 2 cards, 2 actions, 1 debt. Fine. I mean, you got to assume off those 2 cards you're going to get more than 1 money out of whatever chain you run into. So that's not too bad. So 2 cards, 2 actions with a minor downside. I think this is very playable. I think all the cards in the set are actually quite playable. Obviously, some have caveats attached to what they come in with, but all the cards look pretty good. Rice Broker, +1 action. Trash a card from your hand. If it's a treasure, +2 cards. If it's an action, +5 cards. So this is a decent trasher, and it can do kind of what you gives you the extra action to play the cards that you're drawing, and getting 5 extra cards. If you can leverage that into money and then get another buy out of it, pretty good. So now we're on to Tea House. So Prophecy thing again there. +1 card, +1 action, +2 money. Decent, but whether it's worth 5 depends very much on the Prophecy. And obviously that becomes dead once the Prophecy's live. But you could always trash it. Ronin, another shadow card here. When shuffling this, put it at the bottom of your deck. But draw until you have 7 cards in hand. Now, terminal, but having access to that whenever you're able and want it, pretty good. 5 to draw until 7. Let's say you had 3 coins in your hands. You play this, draw another 4. And if you've got actions to spare, then you could be laughing with this one. Tanuki. So Tanuki is not a raccoon, which is why looks a little raccoon-like. But trashing for a Tanuki, is that disrespectful? I do not know. But trash a card from your hand. Gain a card costing up to $2 more than it. Fine. So it's on demand, so you can wait till you got the right card in your hand. If there's some sort of chain, you can go up. And there's a few odd valued cards in this set as well, so you can actually get into things like provinces and whatnot. Imperial Envoy. +5 cards. Great. +1 buy. Not bad. Going to spend all that money on the cards that I've just drawn, but +2 debt. So the 5 cards should offset the 2 debt, and you should be able to utilise the first buy. Only thing wrong with it is it's terminal, but if you can get action economy on the go, then I don't know if it's action economy in this game, but if you can get plus actions on the go, pretty reasonable. Samurai. So it's a duration attack. So one time when you play it, each other player discards down to 3 cards, so militia. But then it stays in play for the rest of the game, and at the start of each of your turns, get a buck. So if you can use this to pay off debt. You can use this to pay off to use this for extra buys. Pretty decent. A one-time effect for 6, only if you're swimming in cash. But if you get 2 or 3 of them, you're gaining a passive 3 every round, for example. Could be an option instead of going into golds. You get the disrupt effect from the attack, and you get the passive effect every turn, rather than having to draw them, and you can keep your deck nice and lean. Mountain Shrine, so Prophecy +$2. You may trash a card from your hand, then if there are any action cards in the trash, +2 cards. So you only ever need to trash, in fact you don't even need to trash an action card, but as long as somebody's trashed an action card, +$2, +2 cards for this one. And you can buy it turn 1, because it's take 5 debt in order to buy this. So you can take the 5 debt and then you can start paying it off. So you can go straight into this. It's a terminal action, so it's not so good, and you will need to trash an action, a different action, to get some value out of it. I think this is a tricky card. I think it's a clever card. I don't know if it's necessarily a good card though. Rice, first and I think only treasure, and it's a big 7 coster. Gives you +1 buy. Good. Surely it gives you a lot of money to go along with that. Well, possibly. So +1 per different type among cards you have in play. So a type of card is basically the keywords along the bottom, right? So within this set we've got command, action, treasure, omen, duration, attack, shadow. That's it from here, but there are others. So how good this is in terms of monies, this could get you, this could be as strong as a platinum, could even be stronger depending on what comes out there. And don't forget to sequence it right. I mean, I guess it counts itself as a treasure, but I'd always play it after another treasure. Then, now I always say this word wrong. I want to say daimyo. Daimyo? Regardless, it costs 6 debt to take it, so you take the debt tokens, you got to pay them back. +1 card, +1 action, and the next time you play a non-command action card this turn, replay it afterwards. So this only any good if you've got another strong card to play it at the back of it. I think this is actually one of the weaker cards in the set, but I'm not great at assessing how strong a card is, so we will see how that plays out. And then the final Kingdom card is Artist, and 8 deck to take it. Whew. Better be good, +1 action. Cool. Then +1 card per copy you have exactly 1 copy of in play. So again, this is also pushing you into having a variety of cards. It's tricky because you might need to play it for the action, in which case you would just get 1 action, 1 card, which isn't very good. But if you can chain it in towards the end, it can keep a pretty decent combo going. So that's all the Kingdom cards, and I got to say it seems like quite a good set overall. Good one for mixing in, good one for even working sort of standalone. A couple of emerging synergies kind of came out, but obviously a lot of the cards rely on how good the prophecies are. So let's just have a little look at the prophecies. This is what a prophecy looks like. Now, prophecies are set out at the start, shuffled, put one out if you wish, right? You don't have to play with prophecies, but if you have an omen card in the Kingdom, you'd have to put a prophecy out. And for 2 players, you get 6 suns on there. I want to say the threshold 6. I think it's 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. Something along those lines. The rulebook will tell you. But basically, put them out, and maybe 3 or 4 omen cards per player will be enough to trigger it. So when it triggers, it has an effect, and that effect is then permanent from then on. So you can see it coming. If it's something you want in play sooner, you want to play more omens. If it's something you don't want to see in play, you don't want to play any omens. So interesting there, particularly in perhaps 2-player where 1 player wants it, 1 player doesn't. But let's have a look at the prophecies themselves. So set up, add an attack Kingdom card pile to the supply. This will be an 11th pile. Even if there's attacks already out, if you reveal this, add an 11th attack Kingdom pile. So then it might be, 2. But there will always be at least 1. And then after you play an attack card, +1 buck. That's just active forever. Remember, once all those suns are removed or added to the threshold, depending on what way you want to play it, this is always in effect. For both players, or all players. Biding time. At the start of your cleanup, set aside your hand face down. At the start of your next turn, put those cards into your hand. So, interesting. So you never... Any card you can't play, you'll always keep. That's interesting. You can do probably some degenerate stuff with that. Like a ridiculous hand size or building up to something. So this could be bananas. Bureaucracy. When you gain a card, it doesn't cost 0, gain a copper. So this is... I like the theme of it very much. Like, the more you're trying to achieve something, the more you're getting slowed down by just having copper after copper after copper in your deck. So you want a strong trashing engine if this is coming out. Divine Wind. When you remove the last sun, remove all kingdom card piles from the supply and set up 10 new random piles. Well, this is only getting played digitally. Yeah, you'll never want to play this in real life. Unless you're an absolute sucker and you've got, like, black market in play and no. Hate it. Hate it. It's terrible. This is absolutely terrible. And actually, I did think this for a couple of things, that they're designed more with digital in mind. I feel like Donald's playing a lot more digitally to test things than he is in real life. But what do I know? Enlightenment. Treasures are also actions. Okay, cool. When you play a treasure in an action phase, instead of following its instructions, +1 card and +1 action. So you could cycle your coppers through. Could be decent. Flourishing Trade. Cards cost 1 buck less, and you may use action plays as buys. So, could be interesting. You can get a lot of buys if you've got leftover actions on a turn, or you may be, if you don't have an extra buy and you need it, encouraged not to play that last card, that last action card, in order to transform it into a buy. Good Harvest. The first time you play each differently named treasure each turn, first, +1 buy. The first time you play each differently named treasure each turn, first, +1 buy and +1 money. What does this first do in this sentence? The first time you play each differently named treasure each turn. I don't know what this first does. Am I being... silly? Anyway, +1 buy, +1 thing. So every copper is worth 2, every silver is worth 3, every gold is worth 4. Well, the first one you play each turn. So it kind of plays into a little bit of wanting all the different kinds, again. But this is for treasures instead of actions. And if anybody knows what that first does, let me know in the comments. Great Leader. After each action card you play, +1 action. Just get all your actions out. This would be great in a strong terminal. Wow, yeah, this could be really interesting in a strong terminal kingdom. The stuff that you normally can't chain easily, you could just boom, 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 boom. Could be degenerate. Growth. When you gain a treasure, gain a cheaper card. I wonder, that's not May, so that's mandatory. So could stink up your deck a little bit, so you got to play around that. But I guess you're aiming to buy golds and taking the 5-cost cards. Could get you to where you need to be quicker. Harsh Winter. When you gain a card on your turn, if there's debt on its pile, take it. Otherwise, put 2 debt on its pile. Oh, that's interesting. That's a neat way of adding a little bit of interaction in a game that doesn't always have a lot of interaction. I like that. Something to play around. It's going to affect all the players at the table, so it's not unfair. Yeah, and pretty cool. Kind Emperor. At the start of your turn, and when you remove the last sun token, gain an action to your hand. So at the start of your turn, and when you remove gain an action to your hand. I presume that's from the Kingdom. There's a page on Prophecies in the instructions. My copy of the game, my physical copy of the game doesn't arrive till next week. But gain an action to your hand. So I'm assuming it's from the Kingdom pile. And at the start of your turn, just get any action you want. Also pretty cool. Very strong. You know, benefit the person that's built their deck and built their hand best. Panic. When you play a treasure, +2 buys. And when you discard one from play, return it to its pile. Ooh. Ooh, that's... Well, this won't come out immediately. Let's look at it that way. Because of, you can very easily run out of ways of buying cards. So this is going to encourage big treasures only, really, and having money on action cards could be interesting. I'm looking at most of these cards for the first time, by the way, in case you're unimpressed with how impressed I am and how I think it's going to affect the game. Progress. When you gain a card, put it onto your deck. Sick. Yeah, you can combo some. Nah, you can't really combo any nonsense, but you know what you're going to... It'll help you with your draw next turn, right? There is some nonsense you can combo by putting things on top of your deck during a... Because it's gain, it's not buy. So anything that playing an action allows you to gain a card, you can do some shenanigans with. But buying a card is gaining a card, just so you know. Rapid expansion. When you gain an action or treasure, set it aside and play it at the start of your next turn. Yeah, I mean... I guess it doesn't take up any of your hand slots, so... Fine. Yeah, I mean, I guess theoretically better than progress. Is it strictly better than progress? No, because, like I say, you can gain a card in the middle of your turn and still draw it. So, same but different. Sickness. At the start of your turn, choose one. Gain a curse onto your deck or discard 3 cards. Well, that's a negative one. I like that they're not all good things. I would need clarification from the rulebook as to whether you can choose something that you cannot fulfill. If you gain a curse when it's empty, do you just get away with it? Who knows? And then we're into the last part of the new set, which is events. Now, events can be bought instead of buying an action card for whatever their effect is. So let's have a look at these. Or buying a treasure. But instead of a buy, you can use a buy to buy an event. That's a better way of explaining that. So for $2, if you have no action cards in playing, gain an action costing up to 5. Okay, so decent early on. Particularly, this is live turn 1. You can spend, and you're a 5-2 split. You can spend 2 to get a 5, and you can spend your 5 to get a 5, and then your rapid start. Asceticism. Pay any amount of money to trash that many cards from your hand. Yeah, not mad about that, but it's $2. And you have to keep the cards. Could be strong though. Let's say early mid game, play a silver, trash 2 coppers. Oh no, because you already paid the 2 for this. This could be tricky to use actually. I guess it's good for getting rid of curses. Credit. Gain an action or treasure costing up to 8, and then gain debt equal to its cost. It's $2. Oh, excuse me. That's not a good deal. If there's something you really need, I can see people using it, but I think this is not a strong event. I can't see any obvious ways of abusing it. Foresight. Reveal cards from your deck until revealing an action. Set it aside and discard the rest. Put it into your hand at the end of the turn. Yeah. Is that after you've drawn? Must be. So you get a 6th card and you're guaranteed 1 action at least. Trash a card from your hand. Kintsugi. So Kintsugi is the art of fixing broken pieces with gold inlay there, right? So you can see that on the pottery. But trash a card from your hand. If you've gained the gold this game, gain a card costing up to 2 more than the trash card. So trash a card from your hand if you've gained the gold this game. I don't like that either. Having to remember that at some point you have gained the gold. That is something that's absolutely fine digitally. In real life, sure, I get it. I will remember if I bought a gold. However, having to track that is not good. This should say something more like, when you gain a gold, place a QB on here. If you have a QB on here, trash a card from your hand. There has to be some way of tracking this in the physical world that isn't just memory. Now, you play enough Dominion, you're not going to forget that you bought a gold, even if it had to get trashed at some point, even if even if you play it properly and you put the gold in the trash and don't just put it back on the pile. There are some kingdoms where you want to be doing that, but mostly I just stick them back in the money pile because I'm never getting through all those golds. So I don't know. I don't like the wording, but the trash effect isn't so bad. Practice, $3. You may play an action card from your hand twice. Yeah, okay, fine. If you're left, some treasures do draw. Sometimes you've not got enough actions to play things. So using a buy to play an action card from your hand twice could be decent. Sea Trade, $4. Plus 1 card per action card you have in play. Trash up to that many cards from your hand. Yeah, okay. Early-ish on, I guess. I guess, but it's not an early card to play. I guess there is a way to maybe wangle it to get rid of some coppers, but this doesn't seem that useful. Receive Tribute. If you've gained at least 3 cards this turn, gain up to 3 differently named action cards you don't have copies of in play. So this I like, in theory, for the cards that rely on a variety of cards. However, you've got to have gained 3 cards and have the $5 left over. Gain 3 cards, have a buy, and $5 left over, gain another 3. This seems rough. If you're able to do this, either it's a very generous kingdom, or you're so far ahead of your opponent anyway, it's not going to do anything. So this just seems a little win more, if you ask me. If this was 5 debt as an event, that might be interesting. That could be interesting. Whoa, a big $7 for Gather. Gain a card costing exactly 3, a card costing exactly 4, and a card costing exactly 5. So this is decent as well. You got the 7. You fill your hand up with the rest of your engine, and you're basically getting a 5-cost card for free, assuming you would have used the 3 and the 4 anyway. Otherwise, you're just thinking up your deck and making it less powerful for each time you draw. And then the final card in here is an 8 deck card. Continue. Once per turn, gain a non-attack action card costing up to $4 dues. Return to your action phase and play it. Plus 1 action, plus 1 buy. Okay, cool. This is decent. It gets you back into playing cards if you ran out. If you hit terminal, you can take debt as well for this, and resets you back into your action phase, assuming the card you get for 4 gives you a couple of actions to play on. Well, this gives you an action, but like whatever you play here, you're wanting to give you more actions. Ideally. Maybe not. Yeah, that seems reasonable. But that's all the cards from Rising Sun. So let me untick you as well. Pretty interesting. I think it's quite a strong set overall. I think the mechanisms, the reintroduction of decks, quite good, and it's utilised in a mostly good way here. I like where the direction the cards have gone. I'm not so keen on shadow cards. I understand it. I get why they go to the bottom of the deck as well, rather than like a shadow area. There's already so many set aside areas in Dominion, whether that's your tavern mat, your duration cards, your everything else, your coffers, your villagers. You've got all these little bits to look for now. So shadow cards staying in your deck is kind of welcome, and it does change how the mechanism works slightly, rather than setting them aside. But a little trickier to manipulate in real life. So that's what I don't like. And the couple of cards I don't like are the ones that are less manageable in real life. I think it's fair to say. There's a couple of weaker cards, but nothing egregious. I think, Donald's been at this for, or Mr. Vaccarino, I don't know him, been at this for a long time now, and there must be more fan cards than there are real cards, and there's a lot of real cards. So there's a wealth there to draw upon. He spends a lot of time playing and testing, I think, as well, and he's got really strong. People understand Dominion quite well, and so there's a lot of people also testing that do it pretty decently. So that is that. Let me tell you what, since we're here, I just want to show off. Resign. I should maybe have a go. Nah, doesn't matter. Resign. I could have done it. I was just on my iPad on Thursday, and it was coming. It was after 11 o'clock anyway. I thought I'm just going to play the game because I've not played in a little while, which is why I've not been streaming it. Also because I'm terrible, and the first time I beat the hard AI, so on the first attempt, and sad I wasn't recording. But that is, in fact, what was the? I can't even remember what I did. I just went in and I was just playing because it was late at night, but it was fun anyway. But anyway, that is Rising Sun, and hopefully I'll get some games of it in and play around with the cards more. But until next time, this is Barry signing off.